Commander Jason Thorne stepped off the silver shuttle and onto the smooth, glowing surface of Lizari Prime. The air was crisp and smelled faintly of flowers, but not like any flowers Jason had ever known. The sky above was a deep purple, dotted with twin moons that shone softly. This was the moment humanity had waited for, a chance to meet an alien empire for the first time. The Lizari Empire was one of the oldest and most powerful in the galaxy, and Jason was their official ambassador. The Grand Palace stood tall before him, made of crystal and light. Inside, thousands of Lizari had gathered. Their skin shimmered in colors like living jewels, their eyes bright and curious. Jason felt the weight of history on his shoulders. This was more than just a diplomatic mission. It was a chance to show that humans were worthy friends and allies. Princess Alarin was waiting for him in the Great Hall. She was stunning, with long silver hair that flowed like water and eyes that seemed to change color with her moods. Jason bowed politely, and she smiled warmly. Without a word, she reached out and gave Jason a delicate flower, a rose, but unlike any rose on earth. It glowed softly, its petals sparkling like stars. Jason took the rose carefully. "Thank you," he said, his voice steady, though his heart beat faster. He did not know the meaning of this gesture in Lizari culture. To him, it was a simple gift, a warm welcome from a gracious princess. The crowd gasped quietly. Some Lizari whispered to each other in soft, melodic voices. Jason noticed their excitement, but did not understand why. He looked back at Princess Alarin, who was watching him with a gentle smile. "Welcome to Lizari Prime, Commander Thorne," she said softly. "We are honored by your visit." Jason nodded. "The honor is mine, Princess." As the ceremony continued, Jason noticed something strange. The way the Lizari looked at him was different now, more respectful, more serious. Even the guards stood straighter. His aide, Dr. Vera Kamal, approached quietly. "Commander," she whispered, "there's something you need to know about that rose." Jason frowned. "What is it?" Vera lowered her voice. "In Lizari tradition, giving and accepting a rose like that means a marriage proposal. And acceptance." Jason's eyes widened. "A marriage proposal? From the princess? That's unexpected." Vera nodded. "Yes, it's an ancient custom. Once you accept the rose, you are considered betrothed to her. There's no simple way to undo it." Jason swallowed hard. What had he gotten himself into? He was here as a diplomat, not as a prince. How would Earth react to this? But for now, the palace awaited. Jason smiled faintly, deciding to play along until he could find a solution. Little did he know, the rose was only the beginning of a journey that would change everything. For him, for Lizari, and for all humanity. The grand hall of the Lizari Palace sparkled with light as the evening feast began. Crystal chandeliers floated above, casting rainbows across the faces of the guests. Jason sat beside Princess Alarin, still holding the glowing rose carefully in his hand. Around them, nobles and officials talked quietly, but their eyes often flicked to Jason with a new kind of respect. Jason noticed this, but he wasn't sure why. He felt like an actor on a stage, unsure of his lines. Beside him, Dr. Vera Kamal leaned closer and whispered, "Jason, you really need to understand what's happening. You're not just a guest. You're the betrothed prince now." Jason blinked, trying to take it all in. Betrothed. That means engaged. Vera nodded. Yes. In Lizari culture, accepting the rose means you agree to marry the princess. It's a serious thing, more than just a political alliance. It's like joining two families and even two planets. Jason rubbed his neck. "But I didn't mean to accept anything. I thought it was just a nice welcome gift." Vera gave a small, sad smile. "Unfortunately, tradition doesn't care about intentions." Jason glanced around. Some of the Lizari nobles were watching him closely, and a few whispered to each other with curious smiles. The princess herself seemed calm, but quietly pleased. A tall, silver-haired Lissari noble approached their table. "Commander Thorn," he said with a respectful bow, "it is an honor to witness this sacred union. The Empire welcomes you as our future Prince Consort." Jason's mouth went dry. "Prince Consort?" "Yes," the noble said. "You will stand beside Princess Alarin as her partner. This union will strengthen the bond between our peoples." Jason exchanged a glance with Vera. She shrugged. "Earth's diplomats will want to discuss this, but for now, it's best to keep quiet." The feast continued with music and dancing. Jason was introduced to more Lissari customs. He learned about the bonding dance, where the future couple moves together in perfect harmony, and the circle of promise, where rings are exchanged to seal the engagement. Jason realized that the entire empire was treating him like royalty. It was overwhelming, but something inside him stirred, a mix of pride and worry. He cared about Earth's safety, but also about this alien world that seemed so different, yet so full of hope. Later that night, Jason sat alone in his room, staring at the glowing rose on his bedside table. The petals pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. He thought about the weight of the unexpected promise he had made. Was he ready to be a prince? To marry an alien princess and become a symbol of peace between two worlds? Could he handle the politics, the culture, the expectations? Before he could answer, his door opened quietly. Princess Alarin stepped inside, her face gentle. "Jason," she said softly, "I did not mean to surprise you. But I believe this marriage can bring great good. I hope in time you will see it too." Jason looked into her eyes, seeing honesty and hope. For the first time since arriving, he felt a spark of trust. "I'll try, Princess," he said, offering a small smile. Outside, the Empire watched and waited, their future tied to a rose, and to a human who never meant to say yes. The grand hall of the Lissari Palace sparkled with light as the evening feast began. Crystal chandeliers floated above, casting rainbows across the faces of the guests. Jason sat beside Princess Alarin, still holding the glowing rose carefully in his hand. Around them, nobles and officials talked quietly, but their eyes often flicked to Jason with a new kind of respect. Jason noticed this, but he wasn't sure why. He felt like an actor on a stage, unsure of his lines. Beside him, Dr. Vera Kamal leaned closer and whispered, "Jason, you really need to understand what's happening. You're not just a guest. You're the betrothed prince now." Jason blinked, trying to take it all in. Betrothed. That means engaged. Vera nodded. "Yes. In Lissari culture, accepting the rose means you agree to marry the princess. It's a serious thing, more than just a political alliance. It's like joining two families and even two planets." Jason rubbed his neck. "But I didn't mean to accept anything. I thought it was just a nice welcome gift." Vera gave a small, sad smile. "Unfortunately, tradition doesn't care about intentions." Jason glanced around. Some of the Lissari nobles were watching him closely, and a few whispered to each other with curious smiles. The princess herself seemed calm, but quietly pleased. A tall, silver-haired Lissari noble approached their table. "Commander Thorn," he said with a respectful bow, "it is an honor to witness this sacred union. The Empire welcomes you as our future Prince Consort." Jason's mouth went dry. "Prince Consort?" "Yes," the noble said. "You will stand beside Princess Alarin as her partner. This union will strengthen the bond between our peoples." Jason exchanged a glance with Vera. She shrugged. "Earth's diplomats will want to discuss this, but for now, it's best to keep quiet." The feast continued with music and dancing. Jason was introduced to more Lissari customs. He learned about the bonding dance, where the future couple moves together in perfect harmony, and the circle of promise, where rings are exchanged to seal the engagement. Jason realized that the entire empire was treating him like royalty. It was overwhelming, but something inside him stirred, a mix of pride and worry. He cared about Earth's safety, but also about this alien world that seemed so different, yet so full of hope. Later that night, Jason sat alone in his room, staring at the glowing rose on his bedside table. The petals pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. He thought about the weight of the unexpected promise he had made. Was he ready to be a prince? To marry an alien princess and become a symbol of peace between two worlds? Could he handle the politics, the culture, the expectations? Before he could answer, his door opened quietly. Princess Alarin stepped inside, her face gentle. "Jason," she said softly, "I did not mean to surprise you. But I believe this marriage can bring great good. I hope in time you will see it too." Jason looked into her eyes, seeing honesty and hope. For the first time since arriving, he felt a spark of trust. "I'll try, Princess," he said, offering a small smile. Outside, the Empire watched and waited, their future tied to a rose, and to a human who never meant to say yes. The next morning, the palace was alive with preparation. Jason woke to soft sunlight filtering through the crystal windows, casting rainbows across the polished floors. Today was the day of the first great Lissari marriage ritual, the Trial of Flame. Jason dressed in a simple tunic gifted by the palace, the fabric shimmering with colors that changed in the light. He felt the eyes of many watching him as he walked to the ceremonial grounds. The air was thick with anticipation. Princess Alarin met him there, calm and graceful as ever. "This trial tests your spirit," she explained quietly. "You must walk through the path surrounded by plasma orbs. They burn but never harm. It is to show your courage and truth." Jason took a deep breath. "Sounds like a fiery welcome." Alarin smiled. "More than welcome. It is a promise to face challenges together." The ceremonial ground was a circle of glowing plasma spheres, floating just above the ground, pulsing with heat and light. Jason stepped forward, feeling the warmth brush his skin. His mind told him to stay calm, but his heart raced. As he walked, the orbs glowed brighter. The heat was intense but never burning. Each step tested his will. He remembered training from Earth, how humans endured discomfort and fear with quiet strength. He focused on steady breathing, each step steady and sure. At the center of the circle, Jason stopped and looked up at Alarin. She nodded, pride shining in her eyes. "You passed," she said simply. Jason let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "I didn't think I would." But there was no time to rest. Next came the gown of intention, a robe woven from rare Lissari silks, each thread telling a story. The gown was a symbol of inner truth and intention in marriage. The tailor presented Jason with several robes, each a different color and texture. Jason had to choose the one that best represented him. He thought about his life, his years in the military, his dedication to Earth, his hope for peace. Finally, he chose a deep blue gown, glowing softly like the night sky, a symbol of calm and strength. As the gown was draped over him, Jason felt a new sense of responsibility settle in. He was no longer just a visitor. He was becoming part of something bigger, a union that could change two worlds. Later that day, Earth diplomats sent urgent messages. They wanted Jason to refuse the betrothal and return home immediately. But Jason hesitated. He looked at Alarin, who was busy planning reforms and dreaming of peace for her people. He saw the trust she placed in him and the hope of an entire empire. Could he just walk away? That night, Jason stood on the balcony overlooking the glowing city of Lissari Prime. The rose still rested on his table, its petals shimmering softly. He whispered to himself, "Maybe this rose isn't a trap. Maybe it's a chance." As the twin moons rose high, Jason knew his journey had only just begun. The following day, the grand throne room of Lissari Prime was filled with tension. Emperor Lysanth, ruler of the Lissari Empire and father of Princess Alarin, sat upon his crystal throne. His silver eyes were sharp as they fixed on Jason Thorne, the human who had unwittingly accepted a rose, becoming betrothed to his daughter. Jason stood tall but felt the weight of the Emperor's gaze. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the palace's energy fields. This was no ordinary meeting. The Emperor wanted to understand the man who had been suddenly linked to his family and his empire. Commander Thorn, the Emperor's voice was deep and calm, yet full of power. You carry a heavy burden, whether you intended it or not. Our traditions bind you now. Do you understand the meaning of this union? Jason nodded carefully. Your Majesty, I am still learning your customs. I respect them deeply, and I want to honor this promise as best I can. The Emperor's lips tightened. Respect is one thing, but intention is another. I have heard rumors, whispers, that you may be a skilled diplomat, but also a clever man who might seek to use this betrothal for his own gain. Jason's heart quickened. I have no hidden plans, Your Majesty. I am here to build friendship between our worlds, not to manipulate. A slight smile flickered on the Emperor's face. Words are easy, Commander. Actions prove truth. At that moment, a sudden commotion rose from the palace courtyard. A young Lissari servant, startled by a wild hover beast that had escaped its pen, dashed through the gates. The creature was large and swift, its glowing eyes filled with panic. Without thinking, Jason sprang forward. Using quick reflexes, he caught the servant before she could fall, steadying her with calm hands. The crowd gasped, then murmurs of approval spread. The Emperor's eyes narrowed, but then softened. You have courage and quick action, he said, qualities of a leader. Princess Alarin stepped forward, her voice warm. Father, Jason's kindness shows his true heart. We should not judge him by old fears. The Emperor nodded slowly. Perhaps we must watch him closely. But for now, he remains part of this empire. Jason breathed a small sigh of relief. He knew this was only the beginning. Winning the Emperor's trust would take time, and he must prove himself worthy not just through words, but by actions. As the sun set over the glowing city, Jason looked toward Princess Alarin, whose calm strength gave him hope. The rose on his table glowed softly, a reminder that his fate, and the fate of two worlds, was tied to this unexpected marriage. News of Jason's acceptance of the betrothal spread quickly through the Lissari Empire. Some nobles whispered their doubts. Not all were pleased with a human joining their royal family. Among them was Lord Varen, a proud Lissari noble who saw Jason as an outsider and a threat. One morning, Jason was summoned to the palace courtyard. There, a circle of Lissari nobles awaited him, including Lord Varen. They were here for the Circle of Challenge, a tradition where a potential royal consort must prove their worthiness through a test of endurance and honor. Jason's heart raced, but he reminded himself, this was not a battle of weapons but of spirit. The challenge began with intense psychological tests. The Lissari used advanced technology to simulate fears, doubts, and pain inside Jason's mind. The holograms showed visions of failure, loss, and isolation. Many who faced the circle faltered or broke. Jason closed his eyes, focusing on the training he had received on Earth. Years of military discipline had taught him to control his mind and body under pressure. He breathed deeply, pushing back the fears and doubts. Humanity does not yield, he whispered to himself. With every vision, Jason stood firm. He refused to break, even as the holograms intensified. The nobles watched in stunned silence as Jason endured the test, longer than any Lissari before him. When the trial ended, Lord Varen stepped forward, eyes narrow but respectful. You have strength of mind. Perhaps you are worthy after all. Jason nodded, feeling a surge of pride. This was more than a personal victory. It was proof that humans could stand strong among the stars. Later, Princess Alarin met Jason in the palace gardens. She smiled warmly. You have earned respect, Jason. The people see your courage. Jason looked around at the glowing flowers and shimmering fountains. I never imagined I would fight like this to be accepted. Alarin laughed softly. In our world, strength is not just muscle or weapons. It is heart and mind. You have both. Jason felt a growing connection to the Lissari people and their traditions. He still had doubts and fears, but with each challenge, he grew more determined to protect both Lissari and Earth. As the twin moons rose, Jason stood beside Alarin, ready to face whatever came next. After the trials, Jason and Princess Alarin found a rare moment of quiet in the palace's floating garden. The air was warm, filled with the scent of glowing flowers and soft humming sounds from tiny hovering lights. It was a peaceful place, far from the eyes of nobles and guards. Jason looked at Alarin, noticing how the light in her eyes shifted like a living painting. "Princess, do you ever worry about what this marriage means for you? For your people?" Alarin sighed softly. "Every day. The Empire is strong, but it is also fragile. Many want power and control, and they do not trust outsiders. But I believe together, we can bring change." Jason nodded. "Earth has its own struggles. We are seen as young and reckless by many in the galaxy, but humans have something special: hope and stubbornness. We don't give up easily." She smiled. "Your stubbornness may be just what we need." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from Jason's communication device. It was a message from Earth's diplomatic command. "Commander Thorne," the message said, "you have the right to nullify this marriage under interspecies diplomatic law. We recommend you do so immediately and return to Earth. Your safety and political freedom depend on it." Jason stared at the message, conflicted. He had fought so hard to be accepted here, and now he was being told to walk away. Alarin noticed his hesitation. "You do not have to answer now," she said kindly. "But whatever you decide, I want you to know that I trust you." Jason looked at her, feeling a strange mix of emotions: duty to Earth, loyalty to Alarin, hope for a future neither planet could imagine alone. Later, they walked through the holographic art displays in the palace's great hall. The holograms told stories of Lissari history, of wars, peace, and great leaders. Alarin explained each story with pride and sadness. Jason was moved by their resilience. He thought about how different their culture was, yet how similar their hopes were. That night, Jason sat alone with the glowing rose. He touched its soft petals and whispered, "Maybe this marriage is more than a mistake. Maybe it's the start of something new." He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he felt ready to face it. Days passed, but the palace was no longer filled with the same warmth Jason had first felt. Whispers floated through the grand halls, whispers of doubt, of suspicion. Some nobles questioned the betrothal, worried about a human's place in Lissari royal bloodlines. Jason noticed the change. Even some of the guards, who had once nodded respectfully, now glanced at him sideways. The rose on his bedside table seemed to glow less brightly, as if sensing the growing tension. One afternoon, Jason was invited to a secret meeting with Princess Alarin. They met in a quiet chamber deep inside the palace, away from prying eyes. "Jason," Alarin said softly, "there are forces here that do not want this union to succeed. My father's advisors fear change. They see you as a threat to tradition." Jason frowned. "How bad is it?" She looked away briefly. "There have been threats. Not just words. Someone wants to end this before it truly begins." Jason's jaw tightened. "Do you think they will try to harm you?" Alarin nodded slowly. "It's possible, but I will not run. Not now." Jason felt a surge of protectiveness. "Then I will stand by you, whatever comes." They spent hours planning how to face the growing danger. Jason knew he was still an outsider, but he was learning the strength it took to survive in this new world. That night, Jason patrolled the palace corridors, alert and watchful. The shadows seemed deeper, the silence heavier. Suddenly, a noise echoed, a soft whisper followed by footsteps. Jason moved quickly, rounding a corner to find a cloaked figure slipping through a side door. He called out, "Stop! Who are you?" The figure hesitated, then vanished into the darkness outside the palace walls. Jason stood alone, heart pounding. The battle for trust had only begun, and now it was more than politics. It was about survival. Back in his room, the rose on his table shimmered faintly. Jason touched it gently, feeling the weight of the promise he had accepted. No matter what threats awaited, he would not back down. Jason couldn't shake the feeling that someone in the palace was watching him closely. The shadows seemed to whisper secrets he couldn't hear, and every glance from the nobles felt like a silent question. One evening, while walking through the quiet halls, Jason noticed a small folded note slipped under the door of his chamber. He picked it up carefully, the paper thin and warm to the touch. The message was written in elegant Lysari script, but thanks to Vera's translator device, he quickly understood the words. Trust no one but the rose. The danger comes from within. Jason's heart skipped a beat. The warning was clear. Someone inside the palace wanted to harm the alliance, or worse. He showed the note to Princess Alarin. Her eyes darkened as she read it. This confirms my fears. The opposition is stronger than we thought. Jason frowned. Do you have any idea who it could be? Alarin shook her head. There are many who fear change and would stop at nothing to protect their power. Jason thought about Lord Varen and the other nobles who had given him cold looks. Could one of them be behind this? We need to find out who's behind this plot, Jason said firmly. If we don't, it could destroy everything. Alarin nodded. We will be careful. I will trust only my closest advisors. Over the next few days, Jason and Alarin worked together quietly. They set traps to catch spies, watched for strange movements, and spoke in code during meetings. One night, Jason overheard a hushed conversation near the palace library. He hid behind a pillar and listened. The human is a mistake, a voice whispered. If we act now, we can end this before the marriage is official. Jason's blood ran cold. The conspirators were closer than he thought. He quickly slipped away and told Alarin everything. She looked determined. We must act carefully. We cannot let fear win. Together, they planned a secret gathering to reveal the traitors. They would need proof and allies. As the stars shone over Lysari Prime, Jason felt the weight of the rose on his bedside table, a symbol of hope, but also of danger. This was no longer just a marriage. It was a fight for the future of two worlds. The palace was unusually quiet as night fell over Lysari Prime. Jason and Princess Alarin moved swiftly through hidden corridors, gathering a small group of loyal nobles and trusted advisors. They met in a secret chamber behind the throne room, the walls shimmering with soft blue light. This gathering is to protect our future, Alarin said firmly. We know there are traitors among us who want to destroy this alliance. Jason nodded, feeling the tension in the room. Everyone looked serious, but also hopeful. One of Alarin's closest advisors, Mael, stepped forward. We have collected evidence, secret messages, unusual meetings, and strange visits to the palace grounds. Jason added, I overheard plans to stop the marriage before it could unite our people. A murmur of surprise rippled through the group. Alarin looked at each person. Tonight, we expose the conspirators. We will show them that fear cannot rule our empire. Suddenly, the doors to the chamber slid open. Two palace guards entered, carrying a captured figure, a cloaked noble with a hard face. It was Lord Varen. He glared at Jason and Alarin. You think you can stop me? The empire belongs to those who respect tradition, not to outsiders. Alarin held up her hand. Your plot to divide us ends now, Lord Varen. You conspired with those who would see our worlds at war. Varen sneered. I act for the empire's survival. Jason stepped forward. Survival means growth and change, not fear and control. Mael produced a small device that played a recording of Varen's secret meetings. The evidence was clear. The gathered nobles gasped. Varen's face twisted with anger, but he had no choice but to surrender. As he was led away, Alarin turned to Jason. You have helped save more than just a marriage today. You have helped save the empire. Jason smiled tiredly. I just did what I could. Outside the chamber, the stars shone brightly over Lysari Prime. The rose on Jason's table seemed to glow with renewed light, a sign that hope still lived. But Jason knew their fight was far from over. There would be more challenges ahead. Still, for now, peace was possible.